On a train, a boy named In-soo rides quietly after recently transferring from the United States to a new school. He holds his lucky charm while calling his mother, knowing it can sense nearby spirits, and he himself can perceive ghosts through his sixth sense. After finishing the call and lying down, his charm suddenly vibrates, signaling that a ghost is somewhere on the train. In-soo notices it, but does not worry immediately. Suddenly, some classmates play a prank on him. One of them blurts out that In-soo can see ghosts, which the ghost on the train hears. In-soo tries to deny it, but no one believes him, and the students eventually leave him alone. A short while later, he feels the ghost moving closer and closer, until it finally stands right in front of him. Panicked, In-soo rushes toward his apartment while keeping a careful watch on his charm. Once he arrives home and lets himself relax, the ghost surprises him by sitting on his head, asking him for help to ease her lingering grudge. The next day, In-soo assists the spirit in locating her hidden body. When they find it, the ghost screams and cries uncontrollably, making it almost unbearable for In-soo to listen. Distressed, In-soo calls his uncle Sun-il, who also sees ghosts and specializes in exorcisms. In-soo hopes to transfer schools and live with his uncle, but Sun-il warns that when two people can see spirits, more ghosts tend to follow. In-soo explains that ghosts appear no matter where he goes. Hearing that In-soo has already helped other spirits, his uncle eventually agrees to let him stay. During a bus ride, In-soo notices a high school girl ghost waiting at a stop. Their eyes meet, and she smiles at him, but he pretends not to notice. When he reaches his uncle's house, full of protective charms and talismans, In-soo spots a photo of their great-grandfather, whom his uncle explains was a renowned exorcist. Later, In-soo starts attending his new school and takes a seat at the back of the classroom. He sits near classmates Hyunji, Haechul, and Ki-tae. Hyunji approaches him and seems interested, but In-soo remains quiet and ignores her. While studying, In-soo feels a ghost coming from the window, and the ghost appears wearing a mask on her mouth. In-soo tells his uncle about it, who answers that the ghost must carry a lot of grudges and advises In-soo to completely ignore her. The next day, by a river, In-soo sees a woman with her dog under a tree. He draws them, and then the ghost girl he saw at the bus stop approaches him. The ghost knows the dog is just a ghost, and the woman is actually blind, so she knows In-soo can see ghosts. Soon after, two students come near In-soo's desk and try to bully him. They say Haechul does not like In-soo flirting with Hyunji's girlfriend, but In-soo denies doing anything to her and says he is not interested. This makes Haechul angrier, and he beats In-soo, claiming that Hyunji is the prettiest girl at school. He reveals he was actually In-soo's childhood friend and asks if he remembers the case of a student who drowned back then. This reminds In-soo of the case when he told his teacher the student was there, but the teachers were confused to hear it. Haechul says he saw the student behind a window at that time. He also says he does not want a kid who can see ghosts hanging out with Hyunji, so he tells In-soo to keep quiet, where he will spread rumors about him to everyone. The next day, a student named Sung-hee receives a report from her mother that their dog is missing, but she does not know that the dog was actually killed by a ghost. Suddenly, she is startled by her two friends, including Hyunji, and they all see a ghost behind them. At home, Sunny sees a black bag hanging on her front door. She checks it and finds her dog's collar underneath it. Suddenly, the bag breaks and splashes blood on her face. While cleaning her face, she sees the masked ghost and quickly calls her friend. She actually knows who the ghost is, named Sai-hee, but does not realize a male ghost approaches her from behind, and finally, she locks her in a room. The next day, Hyunji hears from Sung-hee's mother that her daughter ran away from home again, which the friends find strange. Then in the schoolyard, In-soo meets the high school ghost girl again, but he keeps ignoring her when she talks to him. He reveals he will not ask her to ease her grudge and finally talks to her. The ghost admits she is bored and has no other choice, so she talks to him. When asked if she is a student of the school, the ghost says she does not know and cannot remember anything, not even her name. Suddenly, the ghost senses the masked ghost coming, so she leaves In-soo and sees Haechul being pranked by the ghost. In-soo then checks the area with his charm. He checks the warehouse and finds a ghost dressed in white. They stare at each other, but In-soo immediately pretends not to see her. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Sung-hee is tied up like a hostage. She hears loud banging from behind a metal cabinet, which is being hit repeatedly. After it stops, the cabinet opens, and finally, she's killed by the ghost while the male ghost watches from outside. The next day, In-soo and the high school ghost meet the blind woman from before and talk about her dog. In-soo tells her the dog is here, and when the ghost girl helps find the dog, the woman hears the ghost's voice and finally can hold her dog even though she cannot feel it. Then, when talking about the ghost In-soo saw as a child, it is revealed that she is the first ghost he saw when he was little. Back then, the ghost told him who her killer was, but he lied. Now the ghost seems to be waiting for him, so they go to her parents' house and meet them. In-soo admits his mistake, but the father remembers the help he gave to his daughter and thanks him. Then they meet the little ghost girl, who waves at In-soo, making him feel a bit relieved. After that, they have fun together, riding bikes, In-soo warming the ghost's hands, and taking selfies together, but the ghost does not appear in the photos, so In-soo draws a picture of them instead. At night, In-soo paints the ghost's face and is caught by her, but In-soo does not notice because the ghost purposely hides her presence. Later, when In-soo peeks through the door to change clothes, he still does not realize the ghost is secretly watching him, which makes him happy. Sometime later, while exercising, Sun-il sees the ghost in white sitting on his rooftop. He asks her what is wrong, but she does not say anything, making it hard for Sun-il to help her. At the same time, In-soo watches the news about a murder case and sees the masked culprit, which reminds him of the masked ghost at his school. Suddenly, the ghost woman says that the masked ghost's name is Sai-hee, but she doesn't know what her grudge is. Meanwhile, at school, there are still 2 students left. They are a couple, and a boyfriend manages to take back his girlfriend's phone that the teacher has confiscated. Then, while they are being affectionate, the girlfriend says she wants to go to the restroom, so the boyfriend waits in the classroom. But he doesn't realize that the male ghost is inside the classroom, and finally, he dies. Meanwhile, the girlfriend hears strange sounds outside, so she goes to check it out by opening the toilet doors one by one. She finally encounters Sung-hee, who has already turned into the masked ghost. The girl quickly runs away from her and returns to the classroom. There, she doesn't see her boyfriend, and suddenly the door locks by itself, and a bloody hand appears at the window. Then she hears her boyfriend's voice, and suddenly he appears in front of her, already dead. She quickly calls Hyunji, but instead it connects to the ghost Sai-hee. She feels the ghost behind her, and finally, she dies. The next day, Hyunji and Haechul are questioned by their teacher about the missing girl, and they say they don't know, even though they lie, because Hyunji actually received an SMS from the victim. Later, In-soo asks another classmate about a student named Sai-hee, and the classmate says that she committed the unthinkable some time ago. But when he asks if he has a photo, Hyunji quickly interrupts and says that she's a bad girl. Not believing her, In-soo asks everyone in front of the class, but strangely, no one gives an answer. While he plays with the high school ghost, In-soo receives a text from a friend who gives him a photo of Sai-hee. He then asks the ghost about Sai-hee, and the ghost knows her. The ghost reveals that no one is curious about why Sai-hee died, because the students actually know the reason behind it. Hyunji and Haechul are the ones who know exactly how she dies. That's why In-soo goes to confront them and attacks Haechul, but Haechul manages to fight back. In-soo accuses them of killing Sai-hee and says the ghost will punish all the students. He wants everyone to know what they did was wrong and to apologize, but Haechul refuses to confess and beats him again, until Hyunji stops him. Because of this, Hyunji becomes anxious about what In-soo says and starts to suspect that the disappearances of their friends are connected to Sai-hee. She then shows a photo of Sai-hee's father and suspects that he might be the one behind all of this, so they decide to investigate his house. Meanwhile, In-soo tells his uncle the truth about Sai-hee, and his uncle suspects that she's a ghost with multiple personalities. He explains that her personality might have split right before her death, when her real self couldn't handle the pain and anger anymore, and hid behind a new personality. In fact, she changes her appearance by wearing a mask, and that may be what caused a split. At that moment, In-soo receives a text from Hyunji saying that they are at Sai-hee's house and asking him to come. His uncle tries to stop him, but gives him a ghost banishing knife before he leaves. At Saya's house, they feel an unusually cold atmosphere and hear loud banging from a locked iron closet. The banging grows stronger, so they decide to leave the house, but suddenly the door locks by itself and the closet finally bursts open. In the distance, they see Saya's ghost approaching. When Haechul tries to attack the ghost, Hyunji sees her friend's corpse beside her, while Haechul sees the ghost of Sai's father. He gets struck from behind, repeatedly, and finally he dies. Then the ghost moves on to kill Hyunji and transforms into her original form. Even though Hyunji begs for forgiveness, the ghost still wants to kill her, and finally, she dies. When In-soo arrives at Sae-hye's house, he hears her scream. The ghost of Sae's father appears from the house. He enters and finds the corpses of the students that Sae-hye has killed. Then he finds an open closet and discovers his high school ghost friend inside, who turns out to be Sae-hye herself. In-soo then receives a flashback showing how Sae-hye dies. Back then, Hyunji and the others enjoyed bullying classmates, and one day, they found out that someone had reported the bullying to the teacher. They try to find out who wrote it by analyzing the handwriting, and discover that it's Sae-hye, so they begin to bully her instead, while the other classmates just watch and don't care. Previously, Hyunji and her gang bullied a girl with thick glasses, but now they switched to Sae-hye. They bully her by using a lighter, throwing away her food, in a scene where she talks about food, cutting her hair, and forcing her to wear a mask. Because her mouth is the problem. Hyunji threatens her by saying that if she ever removes the mask, she'll die. Her father eventually finds out and wants to report the bullying to the police, but Sae-hye is already too afraid of them. So her father tries to report it to the teacher, but he seems not to care, just like the other students. In class, the teacher notices that she always wears a mask and thinks she's cosplaying a character. Suddenly, the teacher pulls off her mask and says he'll confiscate it while she covers her mouth. As a result, she gets bullied again by Hyunji and the others, while no one still cares. Sae finally reached her lowest point, and finally, she did the unthinkable. Later, her father finds her dead body. At the house, In-soo finds his sketchbook, which reminds him that he used to draw with her when they were little. Then he finds a diary, which turns out to be a kill list of students that Sae-hye plans to take revenge on next. The next target is the girl with thick glasses, so he rushes to the school to stop it from happening. On the way, he calls his uncle to go to Sae's house and perform a ritual to help the ghost move on, or to make peace. At school, while the teacher browses for clothes online, her computer suddenly shuts down, and the ghost of Sae-hye appears. Not long after, In-soo arrives at the library and asks where their teacher is. He tells everyone to get out quickly, but it's already too late. The lights go out. The other students say the exit door won't open, and they see the teacher pouring gasoline. Suddenly, it gets thrown, and the teacher transforms into Sae's ghost. She says they all ignored her when they knew the truth, so now she'll burn them. In-soo says she's not the real Sae-hye, but a ghost that possesses the real Sae-hye. When the ghost drops the lighter, Sae's true spirit emerges from the body and tells her to stop. But the ghost replies with something about a fiery pit of hell they all deserve. Still, Sae-hye defends the students, so the ghost pulls away from her body. The ghost then breaks several objects with her powers, and In-soo blocks her, but he doesn't find the lighter, so he tells everyone scatter. He uses his talisman to track where the ghost is. Eventually, the talisman reacts, and it turns out the ghost is now possessing the girl with thick glasses. The ghost says she hates this girl even more than she hates Hyunji or Haechul. At that moment, In-soo shows a sketchbook, which makes him remember the time he was bullied by other students. Back then, Sae-hye came to help him, but shy In-soo quickly walked away from her, and Sae-hye found the sketchbook he dropped, which contained a drawing of her wearing a ribbon. Now, In-soo apologizes to her for not recognizing her earlier, and Sae-hye replies that she intended to return his sketchbook back then, but she couldn't because In-soo had already moved to America. When she's about to give the lighter to In-soo, the ghost suddenly fights back. Meanwhile, In-soo's uncle performs a ritual by pulling out his mighty sword and stabbing it into the ground. At the same time, In-soo tries to fight the ghost, but the ghost suddenly grabs the spirit-repelling knife, and In-soo becomes shocked when Sae-hye stabs the knife into her own stomach. She then says goodbye to In-soo, which makes him feel heartbroken, and finally, Sae-hye vanishes before him. The next day, all the students give their final respects to Sae-hye, and the time shifts to 5 years later. Now In-soo has grown up and is about to start working, while his uncle plays around with the ghost woman who lives with him, prompting In-soo to say, "Just marry her already." At the same school, In-soo now works as an intern teacher and receives a warm welcome from students. However, there's still a ghost wandering around, sitting in an empty chair, so he asks whether that seat at the back is always empty. A female student answers that the girl who sat there has moved to the capital city, Seoul. Morning grave movie ends with the ghost suddenly standing up, getting closer and closer, until finally, In-soo gets approached by a ghost. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notification so you don't miss the latest recaps.